So, this is pretty weird.
Okay, it's time to get real about BlizzCon 2021. For while there actually were some pretty damn good things that we are going to get into, I've got to say, a sorry show for a BlizzCon, but also, what were we to expect? 2020 was not kind to Blizzard, and here we really saw the extent of the damages wrought by seemingly their poor production capabilities and the devastation, of course, wrought by COVID. And as it turns out, a bunch of underpaid for the industry and region Californians may not be too productive in their overpriced shoebox apartments while there's a global pandemic, and it's pretty hard to, live a life and feel fulfilled. Bit tricky. And what that all amounts to is a situation where, Blizzard in the short term are in a very rough spot. And they really don't seem to have a lot of progress to show. This may have been the most bare, padded BlizzCon that we've seen in years. The opening ceremony was a series of drawn-out, very corporate-feeling speeches about the Blizzard community and old gaming memories, and one or two of those speeches is fine, but they did like 3. It was really strange. They served no purpose but to waste time, pad out their own time, and perhaps remind people that they, did love Blizzard in the past, and that there are games that they do. And then even most of the game updates were, especially the World of Warcraft ones, felt so padded. It was weird. Really, this BlizzCon should just not have happened under the BlizzCon banner, to be honest with you. So what does this mean for Blizzard? Well, it means that their goal is in the long term, and that is Bobby Kotick's Call of Duty every single franchise plan. And it seems to be that is going forward, it is going ahead, but it's just going ahead way slower than anyone would like. Now, to qualify that, honestly, rather brutal opening, here's a quick rundown. There was about 30 minutes for each game, all in. Now, on the World of Warcraft side, most of that felt like it was wasted on a mediocre roundtable announcement that announced almost nothing but a few paid services, and then a 30-minute update that recapped the story of Shadowlands, which we already know, showed off new stuff for a quite brief while, but not actually much footage, and then had the gall to end with a recap of the update itself, even though that update spent like 3.5 minutes of its runtime, which was very limited, playing a trailer that they already had played like a little bit before in the opening ceremony. It was weird. So odd for World of Warcraft. But the other games actually do seem to have fared better. But still, this BlizzCon generally was, I'd say, a bit devoid of content versus what we would expect, and I think that does prove that, well, Blizzard are behind in development, I think. I think in reality, replacing this with Blizzard Week and then showing off, 30 minutes per game across a few days, I think that would have done a much better job at managing expectations. This basically was a BlizzCon in name alone. Now, there is actually some really good news here.
Of course, there are new Blizzard worlds that we haven't visited quite yet. And when we do finally unveil those games and experiences,
Blizzard are working on new original IP. Yeah, they said that, but it was almost purely a footnote in the opening ceremony. I think the fact that they felt they had to talk about it that way perhaps proves just how far out that new IP is. Let's go through things, though. First up, their flagship, World of Warcraft. In the short term, it's not looking good for the quantity of content. They are clearly further behind on content than almost ever before. Shadowlands launched in November after an almost unprecedented, almost being the operative because of the TBC's delay, but sorely needed delay, and now, just under 3 months later, their next big update doesn't even seem to be on the horizon. I mean, normally when one of these patches is talked about in a BlizzCon, we see footage, we get details, they do deep dives. Normally we get multiple patches being revealed. No, not this time. They announced the name of the new patch, Chains of Domination, and some key details, but really glossed over quickly, and almost no specifics. There was like zero footage, essentially, of, like, the new content. It was mainly just a story trailer. So they're clearly struggling to put things together here. They are clearly behind. I'm sorry, I gotta say it. In the long term, though, things are actually looking brighter because, without getting bogged down into the details here, the development team has been making crucial decisions faster and faster as of late. In an essentially in-between minor patch in March, Blizzard are making a change basically for how loot works in PvP by adding a currency called Valor Points, which will allow players to slowly work towards the gear that, gear upgrades that they want, and it will reduce the amount of loot that you get that is wasted. Effectively, it's a much requested feature from the expansion's launch. It's something a lot of people wanted, and they're actually adding it in a minor patch that they seemingly have just created so that they can get mid-season updates to players quickly. And that is basically the fastest the World of Warcraft team has reacted to player feedback, and with a solution that at least fits into the current season okay. And that does bode well for the future of the game, especially because Ian Hazacostas, the game director of World of Warcraft, in the BlizzCon 9 stream, basically said, it's just not time to show you systems yet. We need to see more, stuff on PTR before we start announcing things. Which, is basically an admission that, those things do not exist in a form where they could be displayed with a high enough level of confidence that it would be, worth displaying them. So, I do at least appreciate the candid nature of that, and they are making some better and better decisions, but the short term is going to sting. So World of Warcraft, it might have a lot of immediate engagement after the Shadowlands launch, which did sell extremely well, but I'll definitely say that based on what we see on our WoW channel and a few other things, it might be low quality engagement that will not stick around through yet another content drought. Now that said, all is not lost. Classic was a massive driver for World of Warcraft subscriptions, and everyone at ActiBliz is big stoked by its success. The Burning Crusade Classic, therefore, was always going to happen, but now it's official. Yes, the Classic project will expand. They're going to be letting players choose whether they send their characters individually onto the Burning Crusade journey, or if they move their character to a Classic era server that will stay in, Classic vanilla forever. And overall, great stuff. And TBC was the first port of call for so many World of Warcraft players that I think this is going to do absolutely great stuff for their monthly active users and, of course, their bottom line. But here is the bit where it goes very Activision Blizzard, though, because they also announced 2 paid services, and this is a bit dramatic. Now, the first one is just a classic character boost. On the Burning Crusade Realms, a level 58 boost will be available, and that will basically set up a player to go straight into the Outlands. Now, in a way, this isn't a huge deal, because you can only use it once per account, and it's basically a very bare-bones starter kit. But that's only one jab, though, because here comes the hook. Instead of choosing either TBC or Classic, you will also have the option to pay to copy your character across both. Yeah, that's a paid service. Having your character be in Classic and advancing it to TBC. And when this was announced, the mood in our BlizzCon livestream that we did instantly soured, because this really feels like a blatant cash grab at the expense of their most engaged players, because you can be pretty damn sure that most people who've been playing WoW Classic, love WoW Classic, they'll want to go onto TBC, but they'll probably want that, time capsule of their Classic character on a Classic server that's always going to be a vanilla Classic server. And for every single one of those people, Blizzard want to collect some money. Where a character boost is at least a clear enough transaction, this paid character copy is Blizzard designing a problem for you and very much solving the solution to it. And I think it is the worst case I've seen across PC and console of something like this. Not even Assassin's Creed paid experience boost is as bad as an experience as this. It feels like a total scumbag move. It'll probably make them a whole bunch of money, but what is it going to cost them in other regards? So overall then, as a business, World of Warcraft has got a bright future. It's got a bit of a ropey immediate future, though, because there is going to be, I think, a little bit of a content drought. And I think the long term for World of Warcraft really it just all comes down to, can the modern team fix their content issues and just ship more stuff? Of course, once mobile is thrown into the mix for the Warcraft franchise, that will be the Call of Duty mobile, right? The kind of Call of Duty business plan be applied to World of Warcraft, and then they will just have Warcraft across, modern, classic, mobile. It'll be hitting everywhere. And it'll probably make a hell of a lot of money. So the WoW business, probably going to be going strong, going to sting a bit in the immediate future. Next, then, the next big franchise, Diablo. So, D4 was, of course, talked about a little bit. Diablo 2 Resurrected and Diablo Immortal were also given some screen time. And this was a fairly damn strong showing, to be honest with you. And it's basically our best view of their next steps forward as a company, right? Some smaller projects and mobile. Now, Diablo 4, for that, a new class was announced, the Rogue, which really did look pretty neat even, but the real meat of all of this was in the PC and console announcement of Diablo 2 Resurrected, the remaster. The air was thick with fear, in our stream at least, that this would be more Warcraft 3 reforged than, well, something good. But you've got to remember, Vicarious Visions are the people that are working on this, and as soon as you remember that, it all just feels a bit more hopeful, doesn't it? In fact, it looks like the devs are actually given both time and resources, reportedly having worked on this for years, worked with Blizzard for years. So they got the time they needed to make it. It's now fully 3D, but with the original game logic and grid system running underneath, and of course all the new fancy visuals. There's a very long list of quality of life improvements that are designed to make it a better experience as well, but without messing up the actual core of the game, without sort of messing with the magic. And that's that is what a Vicarious Visions remaster is. Look at Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 remastered. They did that perfectly. So with a release date this year and pre-orders open right now, I think Blizzard seem pretty happy to make that their big Diablo product this year for that very core audience, and perhaps their only major release this year outside of Diablo Immortal, which I would imagine is also this year. So it's almost sure to be a hit. Now, Diablo Immortal, basically, they mentioned that in passing during the opening ceremony, but based on the later panel, it does very much seem to be geared up for a 2021 release, although they may just want to continue those alphas and those focus tests, and maybe do like a phased global rollout. That's the sort of thing that's actually quite standard in mobile games who are trying to get their monetization funnel down right before they hit into the biggest markets like the United States. So to sum it up, Diablo is getting a three-pronged attack across old, new, and mobile. And it might be the first real testing ground of Blizzard's implementation of Activision's winning Call of Duty strategy. All parts of this triple-pronged attack actually have got the potential to work really well. It just depends, of course, on how well Immortal is received in the West, and I think how well it does in the East. It's probably a game a bit more tailored to there, I'd say. But, that's a game that's been in development for quite some time now, and the early impressions from the technical alpha were actually really strong for it as a game. Now, none of these games look incredibly spectacular, especially when viewed through a mangled, compressed YouTube stream. But look, Diablo just needs to scratch that action RPG itch, and look, it's not going to be Path of Exile or Path of Exile 2, it's going to be Diablo, and you know what? That is actually something that fits for a lot of people. Then the next big hitter should be Overwatch 2. Despite it being almost entirely absent from the opening ceremony, which was very surprising to me, but it did have its behind-the-scenes panel that actually revealed a ton of detail on the PvE campaign, the hero progression, and some of the more radical PvP design changes. It still does feel to me a bit more like Overwatch 1.5 than Overwatch 2, like conceptually, and I think that's a perception I'd like to see Blizzard tackle, but overall, most people do seem hugely positive on the update. Still not going to be out in 2021, which you already knew, of course, but the long-term prospect for Overwatch seems a little bit better from some of the positive things we've heard here, but overall, I do worry if it'll be too little too late and if it'll be eclipsed by other games that exist. I mean, the explosive entry of Overwatch into the market in 2016, I really don't think that's been appropriately followed up, just with how Overwatch has actually played out over the last few years. Okay, then the last of their product lineup that they talked about was Hearthstone, and as always, it is receiving really great-looking new player versus environment content in the hero-based roguelite inspired by, I'd say, Slay the Spire, that is called Hearthstone Mercenaries. It looks pretty sweet, so that'll be great, I'd say. And then over in the PvP side, they are revamping their classic and standard sets to allow players to get up to speed, while also adding in a new format called Classic, so that basically you can play Hearthstone as it was in 2014. So, there you go. That is actually basically it for BlizzCon, and I think what's key here is that even though we did a top-level or a high-level run-through of everything here, really when it comes down to the details, especially for World of Warcraft, they just were not there, which was surprising, because a 0.1 patch, usually we would expect the 0.1 patch to have been on the public test realm by right now, and for it to come out pretty soon, and then the 1.5 patch to unlock the raid, like, a little bit after, so it's weird the way it's actually rolled out. But overall, I'd say here, the real takeaway is that Blizzard showed off ideas and potentially a bright future, but very little that was tangible was shown on screen, except for Diablo 2, but that was mostly handled by Activision's Vicarious Visions. So they're trying to sell users on a future that doesn't exist yet. They didn't have a massive amount of footage to show, I think especially for World of Warcraft, but I think a bit better for Diablo and Overwatch. So we just need to see if Blizzard are actually capable of executing on that future. I mean, they've got a lot of games in the works, including new IP, but can they release an actually good game in their current state on time? Because it feels like they've been running on fumes for ages. Like, just a bunch of things going on haven't really worked out. And I really hope that ends. I really hope that Overwatch 2 and Diablo 4 do really well, that the World of Warcraft development team can recover from the really hard situation of doing a bunch of an expansion's development during COVID. I hope they overcome these things and that new IP is great. Of course, though, we don't know yet, and after Reforged, I can't really say it's worth, getting, like, pre-ordering stuff or anything like that. So we'll just need to wait and see. But that essentially is it. It's funny. It wasn't a long show, day one of BlizzCon line, but so much of it was still padding. I really wish they condensed this down to be way shorter and to just have a information that we care about to obvious padding ratio that was a bit better than what we got, because I mean, certainly for a lot of World of Warcraft people anyway, we watched that just being like, come on, why are we doing all these recaps? Why are we doing recaps of the recaps? What's up? So, yeah, that's the situation. Blizzard in 5 years could be in a pretty incredible situation if, the Diablo and Overwatch franchises and Warcraft franchises are doing well, and they get to apply that sort of Call of Duty blueprint to all of them. They could be in a fantastic place with really good new IP on the horizon. It's just that BlizzCon line, the actual show, I have severe criticisms of how they actually put that together, and the short term is just going to sting a bit, with the exception of the probably incredible Diablo 2 Resurrected, which I am very, very excited about personally, and absolutely will be playing. That is it for me. Let me know what your impressions were from this, and with that said, I'll see you next time.